you are live.
Oh, good morning, y'all. So this is our continuation of the songs of the 8 Siddhas, Dohas, the 8 Siddhas of North India. Of the 84 Mahasiddhas of North India, songs of enlightenment of 8 of them are in this text. So we're still working with the first in the text, Saraha, and we'll be finishing Saraha today. Announcements. I'm going to be out of town mostly for the month of August. I'm here a little bit in the middle, so we'll have something happening there. But not a lot of online will be going on during August. It's hard to travel and do all the online stuff at the same time. We have a new translator into Georgian, which is really nice, starting today. So those of you wanting the Georgian language can find it. And I'm not sure how you get the different translations when we're doing this kind of live YouTube, Facebook streaming. Nyando?
There's a separate YouTube channel for Georgian.
Oh, okay. There's a separate YouTube channel for that, which should be posted for those of you interested. And so to begin. Chuku kundu zongbo gompo ye dorji sempagarab dorji dang shire singe bardushin labde dedam avzantata tusum chi zogchen jupe lamala solo de ergin pema junela solo Dorji chang chitilo narodang marpa mila gompo tsatsapa na pupadang palden drupa suk kargula manamla solua de o chen lama namla solua de Ndru chen lama namla solua deb Kaginwari lama namla solua deb Shakya lama namla solua deb Nyandu dang yundrun lama namla solua Adeb Alkondu Jongdang Yerme Pa Gungarab Dorji Jintragpa Jitidang Nisume Pa Palamanam Chitinte Chong I'm going to do a very short review, bringing us up to where we left off, because this bit is so important. The muck of cyclic existence gives birth to the lotus-like mind. Without confusion, there can be no wisdom. The roots of awareness are nourished in the muck of samsara, allowing them to bloom as nirvana. If you attempt to remove samsara from nirvana, nirvana will wilt and die. It is the union of samsara and nirvana. Do not reject your confusion, your distraction, your problems. Do not try for all smooth. That way lies a God realm, which is a nice holiday, but then you come back and it's Monday morning and the laundry still isn't done. really not worth it. I mean, if you really need a holiday, a nice life as a god is fine, but you use up an awful lot of good karma. You spend an awful lot of your savings on that fancy vacation, and then you're back at the old grind in samsara. Paycheck to paycheck. Karma to karma. So don't be trying to reach for the all smooth. Om Shanti Om. It's all fine. Nothing happens. This is not where we're going with Mahamudra. Shine takes you there, but Shine is a matter to be transcended. It is a step on the way. It is a tool. It is not where you're going or where you are. So do not shove away occurrence or attach yourself to non-occurrence. This lotus-like mind cannot be stained by misfortune or any occurrence. Unaffected. Yeah, I heard that a lot of times before it made any sense to me. And then one day, I think we were just sitting on my teacher's deck. He might have been cooking some lunch. He's a pretty good cook. He's the one who taught me Tibetan cooking. And he just looked at me one day and looked up at the sky. It was a breezy day. And he said, "Have you noticed that the sky is not blown around by the wind?" For me, that was the moment when this made sense. The sky is not blown around by the wind. It doesn't matter how windy it gets. Sky-like nature of mind is utterly unaffected. Even the greatest storm that occurs cannot blow over a sunbeam. Eat, drink, and be happy, and suffer misery of body and mind. The ups and downs of samsara will occur. Do not reject the downs and grasp the ups. Sometimes it hurts. Yesterday, I had a gardening party. A whole bunch of students came over and helped me garden because it had gotten away from me. And by the end of the day, I experienced a great deal of painful satisfaction. My body was killing me. My garden was beautiful. It is the ability to combine pain and pleasure without throwing one away and grasping the other that is extremely important as you go on. Don't shove, don't grab. I say that a lot. It's one of the keys. Keep it in mind. Whatever, wherever, all of it. It's all part of the practice. And all of it is neither bound nor freed. Unstained from the very beginning. We are not going anywhere. This is it. And yet, when mind sees itself as it is, without adding anything on or taking anything away, impeccable, unreifiable, just as it is. Look there. My words will only take you so far. Even these remarkable words by siddhas of the lineage, Saraha, will only take you so far. It's up to you. Practice to find, to transcend practice. But you transcend practice through practice, not instead of practice. As long as you want to run away from something, as long as you want to run towards something, keep practicing. And if you hit the equanimity of the midpoint, keep practicing. For as long as there is a practitioner to do a practice, keep practicing. And that brings us up to where we left off. Third point, to benefit others without attachment, to overcome, to allow the natural innate compassion to arise unforced. For the state of realization does not come from a set of forced behaviors. Sumbajimba jimichi ninge shukpala chungpaden pani. Seriously, this is not dragging little old ladies across the street whether they want to go or they don't want to go, like a good Boy Scout. This is not imposing your will of what you think should be, would be, could be on everyone else. Watch out for that. That's where the monsters come from, who try to impose their will upon the bodies of women, upon the sexuality of a variety of people who were just living their life. Because they think that is good and that is bad. Whatever you think is good and bad, live by it. But don't lay it on anybody else. Let them come to their own thoughts. And if they mess up, be willing to rescue, but only if requested. Do not be righteous. That leads to monstrosity. That leads to the religious wars that we see all over the world, imposing Shara on those who do not wish to live by Shara, imposing Christianity on those who do not want to live by Christianity, imposing the rules of the second conclave on those who do not wish to live by that point of view of Buddhism, imposing the rules of the Hindus upon those who do not wish to live as Hindus. Everybody does it. Don't. Just don't. You can feel sad if you see someone creating digpa, negative karma. You can be there to lend them a hand out of the mess they've made for themselves when they ask. But in at least this sect of Buddhism, proselytizing is forbidden. You cannot give a teaching unless you're asked a question. All you can do is sit there. And it is not until the question arises and is asked that a teaching can come forth. Yeah, this teaching was requested by a number of people, and so it is coming forth. But you can't push it on anybody. If you think it's wrong that the hounds chase the fox, open your door and let the fox hide in your house. But do not shoot the hounds. Okay? Difference. This is so important. You must be impeccable in your own karma, while allowing others to determine for themselves what rules they will follow and what rules they will not. Perang Juju Menyang Dine Mong Pedro Anamda Ngo Churchi Metson Inji Shikchi Chenma Chung Dak Shin Luna Nawai Nila Tu Ton La Tang Ne Me We Sum Trane Yang Dak Me On Milan Chundrate Jang Bodral We Dak Jing Jo Me Par. The state of realization does not come from a set of forced behaviors. Yes, in the beginning of Buddhism, there are things like the lay precepts, the Vinaya, Bodhisattva vow, tantric precepts. Those are rubber buggy bumpers to keep you from getting yourself into trouble while flailing. If you follow those rules as appropriate to your station and path, you are unlikely to make a great mess for yourself. They will tend to keep you within such karma as your path may continue. Should you fall afoul of those rules, you are most likely to do yourself a mischief, causing pain and suffering to you and others. However, they do not free you. They just keep you from making a mess in the process of practicing towards freedom. And each set of rules supersedes the next. For example, in some interpretations of the lay precepts, alcohol is not allowed. Not the interpretation that I am most familiar with, but it's in some of them, and it's taken quite strictly by some of them, and it is quite appropriate for some people to take it that way. However, in the tantric precepts, you cannot refuse a tsok. Tantric precepts supersede Vinaya and lay precepts. And tsok contains alcohol. Yes, it's just a teaspoonful in the palm of your hand, but nonetheless, such it is. It is important to understand that the vows are relative, not absolute. There is a context for them, a use for them. This analogy I give so often, you know, computers and other machinery that you may wish to repair. Sometimes to keep you from repairing it so that the company can make the money of having you ship it back and repairing it, you need a very specific little wrench to get the back off. Now, if you have one of those wrenches, cool. You can take the back off yourself, but once the back's off, that's all that wrench does is get the back off. So then you put it down and you pick up whatever is the next tool you need to repair the insides. Maybe you're switching out the hard drive or a modular piece. Soldering irons would not, that's when I was a kid. Then you pick up the soldering iron. But I don't think that's appropriate anymore in computers. I think it's pretty solid state piece replace. The point I'm making is tools are for specific uses. There is a context in which they are useful and a context in which they are not. These vows are sets of forced behaviors. They do not lead beyond, they just keep you safe around here. They keep relative reality from biting, but they don't lead out. Be aware of this. Be aware of their context and their usefulness. Determine for yourself or together with conversation with your teacher which ones are useful to you when. Follow those. But please do not follow them as you find them on Reddit. Yeah, sometimes I decide to go down a rabbit hole because my brain isn't working and I'm going to read Buddhism on Reddit. It's quite funny. Some of the things that are said are excellent. And there's also a great deal of perpetuation of Dharma rumors. Once in a while I stick my 2 cents in, but then I feel really dorky for having done that because nobody's going to listen. It's Reddit. It's just a bunch of people talking about their opinions. Do not automatically believe what you read on the internet. All the confused beings exhausted by the arisings of life. And boy, is life full of arisings. Oh, you can squish it down to smoothness. Unfortunately, a lot of us learned to really squish it a lot during COVID and are having trouble reinflating it. Walking out the front door and allowing life to occur. So you might have to force yourself if you got into the habit of not living much. It's exhausting, but only because you're constantly busy grabbing and shoving at it. If you just let it slide by in a natural way without trying to keep some of it or get rid of some of it, it's not tiring. The exhaustion is you trying to fix it all the time. Without patience, tsundo, endurance, keeping going, the force of compassion cannot arise. The recognition arises from exchanging oneself with others. You know, there's a practice for that. Tong Len. It's a very powerful practice. It can be done in a variety of ways. Tibetans, for whom the mystical world is often more real than the mundane here and now, like to do it by visualizing the different realms and drawing in the suffering of each realm as a black smoke, allowing it to thwap that bubble of self-aggrandizement, self-focusedness, so that both the suffering and the bubble of self-focusedness are mutually destroyed. And nothing is left but pure, clear, transparent light. Westerners, finding this a bit theoretical, often do better working with some animal, like a bug caught in a spider web, a hungry bird, if you take a walk out into the forest, into the park, along the street, you will see an animal that's suffering. Maybe it's a sick rat. Maybe it's a squirrel that's smaller than another squirrel being driven off. Maybe it's a bug that fell into your beverage and is drowning. A hungry hummingbird that isn't finding enough flowers. A sick bumblebee, poisoned by pesticide. Walk around and find one. Exchange yourself with them by, it's almost like a double vision, where you stand in the form of that being, looking at your body over there, which is looking at that being. You're in both places at once, and you actually visualize, feel, imagine. Starts as imagination, later it becomes more real. The sensations of that being through its sense organs, including the way a bug sees multiple images made into one, tastes, feels the pain of it. You imagine that the suffering is like a black smoke. You know those diesel buses that fart this big black smoke that comes out? That stuff, exactly. You imagine it's like that, all poisonous and polluted. And from within you, you are willing to accept the destruction of this upon yourself to free that one. You actually bring forth yourself into the willingness. It's a fight with yourself. You don't want to die. You don't want to hurt. And somehow you bring forth the ability, the tsundral, the awareness, the patience with suffering to accept that suffering upon yourself to free them. And you inhale it through your nose, that black smoke, that poisonous, polluted, disgusting black smoke. You breathe it into your lungs. And as it comes in, it pops. That bubble of self-focusedness, that ego thing, pops like matter and antimatter coming together. And both the black smoke and the self-aggrandizing bubble are mutually destroyed. And what's left is the clear, transparent light of awareness. Neither more nor less. And by its nature, without anything forced or active on your part, it shines out and permeates the entire universe with the all good, with the clarity of awareness and enlightenment. And you and the bugs and the birds and the fish in the sea rest together in that clear, natural light. For a timeless time. And when the timeless time comes to its end and you kind of come back to being your normal, ordinary, confused self, you go find another bug and you do it again. You'd be surprised how effective this is at unraveling your crab pot, I'm more important than you are. That self-focused, self-aggrandizing ego trip that makes you shy, that makes you compare yourself to others at a deficit. Oh dear, I am the fattest one here. The oldest, the wrinkliest, the stupidest, the least educated, the ugliest, the weakest, the least buff and strong. All of those comparisons where you find yourself at a deficit, they come from this. All that shyness, where you're afraid of the social interactions and what might come of them, they come from this. This self-aggrandizing, self-focused bubble that we trap ourselves in. This is how to pop it. It's a tool. Use it, and when you're done, put it down. You see, all of us sentient beings, all life in the universe, we're all in this together. And we are not separate individuals. First of all, you're an ecology. You and your biome make up an individual together. Just like all life on this planet Earth makes up the entity, Gaia, who thinks she's an individual. And yet all of us are part of her. Unfortunately, she's ill at the moment and running a fever. I do hope she recovers. She has an overgrowth of certain bacteria-type entities in her biome called Homo sapiens. She's really only supposed to have about 2 to 3 billion of them for optimal functioning. It's at 10. Like an overgrowth of yeast in your body, it's causing problems. The solution, unfortunate, is unpleasant both for the yeast and for the Homo sapiens here. Oops. That's why I always encourage contraceptives. They're much less uncomfortable than plagues. The recognition arises from exchanging yourself with others. This can be done via the practice Tong Len, which I just gave you an teaching enough to enable you to do it. No, you don't need another Wong or Lung to do it. It doesn't have magic words in it. So you don't need a Lung. It's just a practice. This one doesn't have a Wong. Well, frankly, Tibetans can probably give a wong for anything, but you don't need a special one for this. But it is also a way of living, not just a practice. The practice helps with the way of living. The practice is the tool that allows you to accomplish the way of living, which is called empathy. Exchanging yourself with others. Empathy. Empathy is not necessarily pity. You can have empathy for someone who is doing wonderfully at the moment, just as you can have empathy for someone who's doing poorly at the moment. And don't be so sure you can tell which is which. There were times in my youth when I was quite homeless, living wild. Some of the best times they were. I won't call them the best times of my life because I'm still having the best times of my life. But they were certainly up there in rating. And yet from outside, I appeared to be dressed in rags, homeless, living wild, and not very clean. But I was having fun. So, when you perceive others with empathy, there is no judgment in the empathy. You don't, in pity, there is judgment. There's a separation. I, who am doing so very well right now, have pity for you who are doing so poorly. Don't go there. That's not what we're talking about. That's not Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta has everything to do with empathy. Being able to feel how others feel without judging it as right or wrong, good or bad. And do extend that to yourself as well. Do not judge your own feelings as right or wrong, good or bad. Perceiving truth beyond imagination. All created dreams lack this perfection. Enlightenment is not what you think it is. You have some idea of where you want to get with your practice. You're wrong. You're believing your thoughts again. Generally, we Homo sapiens, all humans, not just Homo sapiens, are extremely attached to what we think and what others think. So you go on the internet and you read other people's thoughts in social media and here and there. And then you have your thoughts about their thoughts. Nothing's happened. And then you have a bunch of feelings about your thoughts about their thoughts. Nothing happened. It's just this big ball of, there's nothing there. You can't even sit on it. Once a long time ago, up in the caves, where I lived as a yogi with a number of other Tibetan yogis, there was this old board. Some of you've heard this story before, but some of you have not. This old board had belonged to a person who lent it to another person while they were not needing it. And then later, the first person who owned the old board left the community, had an opportunity to go to Europe and did so, saying to a third person that they could have their old board, they just had to get it back from so-and-so. They didn't tell so-and-so who'd borrowed the old board, however. So a bit of contention arrived. You have to understand, this board was thick, sturdy and strong. It was long, wide, and smooth. It was a really fine old board. Such things were not common in such good condition. So ownership of the old board became contentious. And a couple of factions arose among the cave yogis as to who now owned the old board. There's one group and another group, and people took sides. And we were at Sok one day, and you're not supposed to fight at Sok. It's really bad to fight at Sok. However, Sok does increase the energies and the emotions run, so if you're having a fight, you really want to have it at Sok, even though you're really not supposed to fight at Sok. So anyway, we're at Sok. It was probably Guru Rinpoche Day or something, or might even have been Dark of the Moon. And the argument about the old board's getting really louder and louder. Now, I'm pretty new there, but I'm a little bit full of myself, as kids are. I'm thinking to myself, these incredible yogis, what are they doing fighting over an old board? So I come up and say, wait a minute, guys, how can you do this? You who are these realized, amazing Tibetan yogis, you are a fully ordained monk. Now, you are a Nagpa of such and such lineage. How can you possibly fight over an old board? It's just an old board. Remember, I'm a Westerner, used to Western wealth. Old boards aren't much here in America. I have a bunch out back. But there, big deal. I say at them, and Rapture Dorji turns to me. You Westerners, I know your type. You Westerners, Injis, you guys fight over feelings, theories, ideas, and you can't even sit on them. What do you mean it's just an old board? It's useful. Shut me up, he did. Because he was right. Feelings, ideas, belief systems. You can't even sit on them. And it's all your imagination. The truth of open awareness, the essence of Dzogchen and Chogchen, completion stage of Nyingma and Kagyu lineages, is beyond concept. That means beyond imagination and unthinkable. So what you think it's going to be, you're so wrong. Because a thought is limited. Look at one. Look at what you think enlightenment must be like. Pick that one. Have a look at it. It moves, doesn't it? Comes and goes. You can't keep it. It changes. What you think it will be like one day and what you think it will be like another day, after a different practice, subtle changes. Those are thoughts. Now shift your attention from that thought to the infinite openness of the ground of mind, which isn't a ground and isn't a place, but shift to the where of it anyway. That there where the thoughts arise and vanish. In Mahamudra, the stillness, because like the sky which is not blown about by the wind, this infinite openness is not affected by thoughts. Think of a carrot. Think of a beautiful day at the beach. Think of a dead baby. The thoughts change. The feelings that ride the thoughts change. But mind itself, where the thoughts arise and vanish, no change at all. Black clouds and storms pass through the sky. Little white fluffy clouds chase each other like sheep. Has no effect on the sky space, does it? Even the mushroom cloud of nuclear warfare does not bother the sky. Oh, it bothers the critters running about under the sky. But your mind, sky-like mind, infinite open awareness, is unaffected by being born, by dying, by being happy or being sad, by thinking of virtue or contemplating vice. None of this whatsoever has any effect on the sky-like nature of mind. Shift your attention from the moving, virtue, vice, thoughts, feelings, stuff, to the stillness. And rest relaxedly in stillness, which is not a thing, a there without a where. This is the first step of Mahamudra, Shine. Allow the moving to move unhindered. Don't try to block it. Don't try to stop thinking by tightening down focus. That actually won't work, not for very long. Relax past the layer of thoughts into the layer of open awareness, and past the concept of open awareness. Something?
We may have lost audio. Let me see. You may have to restart that section again. Let me just double check some connection.
I'll drink some coffee.
Yeah. I don't know what dropped off there, but let me just double check something while we...
Okay.
All right, now we have it.
Okay, starting over. We had a technical hiccup. Chuma gampo chomdonji chungji bachak chambola lawe la sungi tangbo trewe toptun nge war tsembani tonen nang manungge rangshin la pangdang tope ngolo kayang me ila chame chakji chenmuni trewe kansu dorwe me onshu. The equanimity of the stillness does not preclude promoting the welfare of sentient beings within the illusion. You know the story of the starfish. There'd been a terrible storm one night, and a little girl was walking along a beach, and all the starfish had been thrown up by the waves onto the beach and were dying in the hot sun. And she was picking them up one by one and throwing them back deep into the water, flinging them like frisbees deep into the water so that they could live. There were billions of starfish on the beach. And a grown-up came to the little girl and said, "You know you'll never get them all. Why do you even bother?" And she said, "Oh, I know I'll not get them all, and I'll make really no difference in the state of things, the big state of things, but," and she picked up a starfish, "to this particular starfish, its own life is extremely important." And she threw it into the water and picked up another one, and to this one also. Don't forget the starfish. As you walk in the equanimity of sky-like awareness, it is not instead of Bodhisattva. It is part of Bodhisattva. That equanimity of sky-like awareness, we're all in it together. Saraha, who is not a wildly logical person, is attempting to break this down into logic, but forgetting where he is periodically, as near as I can tell reading the text. First, the 3 signs of Mahamudra. To point at, to show the certainty of result. The original natural purity of sky space. Remember, in Tibetan it's the same word, Naunga. Abandoning the concepts of attaining and not attaining. The least of these is not. Mind rests in Mahamudra without striving. Give up any such thing as a result. Striving, trying to get where you imagine enlightenment is, really is not going to do all that much for you. I mean, seriously, first of all, it's not what you think it is. And second of all, trying to get there is just going to tire you out since you're chasing an illusion. Give up. Let go. Relax and leave it be. Like the being who pursues the mirage of water. Deluded beings tormented by desire, tormented by thirst, again and again exerting themselves to chase the mirage of wealth, of water, of love, of enlightenment. Which mirage are you chasing in this moment? Because we all chase one in our daily life, going through the motions. Yesterday, I chased the mirage of a tidy garden. If you will chase a mirage, don't believe it's real, or that you can keep it, or that it really matters in the least bit whether you catch it or not. Have fun in the chasing. Chase in a relaxed manner, without grasping or shoving. That's how it works. Third, examine what is called primordial Buddhahood. This attainment which is never attained. Since even an atom of attainment does not exist, what is it that we call so casually stillness? Nature of mind, Great Mother Ocean, Dharmakaya, George, all these words that we call it. Examine it for yourself. Do not believe that the words I use to point at it have any reality or bearing on it. Don't grab the words. Don't feed them back to me. Don't try to find new words. The whole key is if you glimpse natural mind in an instant. You know what you're going to do? First time, second time, 25th time. You're going to talk to yourself about it and fuck it up. You're going to squish it. Think of it like a butterfly landing in the palm of your hand. Ooh, pretty. Oops. The moment you talk to yourself about your realizations, you squish them. Because realizations do not fit in words. Words will limit them. Squish them, put them in a box. And then they will be flat, fake, recorded realizations. You gotta leave them free. You gotta leave them unspoken. This is why when we're talking together, you and I always interrupt you when you're trying to tell me in words what you saw. Especially if you're getting somewhere close to pointing at. Because you're going to fall into believing it was what you said it was. Especially if you said it to the teacher, because that's an intense samaya relationship going on. So really, you can't put it in words. The real thing won't fit. If you can put it in words, it's not the real one anyway. Try to stop trying. Sometimes. this Dorji Chang, this primordial Buddhahood, this Vajra mind. Since there is no attainment, it is unborn, the natural self, pure from the beginning. Katak, unfuckupable, unfucked up. Unborn, undying. You don't have to get it from somewhere. You don't have to accomplish it, acquire it, or be good enough for it. Relax. The practice is just practice relaxing. If you were able to truly and fully relax, you would fall into the natural state of enlightenment. It is your efforts that keep you from it. Your efforts to distract yourself, to entertain yourself, to acquire what you want, and to get away from what you don't want. The moment duality arises for you, you start poking at it. You think it's out there somewhere, and you poke at it. I want this, I don't want that. That's your original oops. To this, not even a little bit of things are. See the realm of mind in its complete purity. Right now. Make it easy on yourself. Align your channels. Do that trick I taught you with your eyeballs. Focus them on a point 2 meters in front of yourself in empty space, and then let go the point. Relax the muscles that control the lens of your eyes until central and peripheral vision is equally clear, not clear. You want the balance. Whatever you're thinking, feeling, or perceiving in this moment, allow yourself to think, feel, and perceive it. Don't reject it. Don't grasp it. Don't entertain it. Don't do anything with it. Don't try to get rid of it either. Leave it be. Gently allow your attention to spread out into the where. The thoughts arise, the feelings arise, rather than the what is arising. You may notice a tension somewhere in your body. That's a holding pattern. Allow it to relax. Sometimes wiggling it a little bit helps do that. You may notice a tension somewhere in your mind that wants to grab onto thises and that's. Don't swat it. Don't yell at it to stop. Don't disparage it. Don't dislike it. Don't feed it any energy at all. Giggle at it gently. Mind plays funny tricks to protect itself from enlightenment. Just relax. Allow the thoughts to roll by like a river. The feelings, same. Perception sensations arise and change and dissolve. Thoughts about them. Hopes and fears. Let it all flow by. It is by nature transparent. Relax. Don't try to get something out of this. Don't try to accomplish anything with this. Just relax. If restlessness arises, do not squish it. Allow it to arise and pass. It's moving, let it go. The thoughts, feelings, and perceptions that arise as the moving in the infinite, ineffable stillness of natural mind. They are not made of anything other than that stillness. They don't come from anywhere outside of mind. They don't go to rest anywhere outside of mind. Arising and dissolving in mind itself, made of nothing other than mind itself. Rest down in the dancing stillness. Don't make anything out of it. Don't squish. Don't grab. Don't try to change it in any way. Leave it be as it is. This is Lakdong, the direct seeing of the dancing stillness. Mikchoye chula rabdu juktatar mongpa ke shikdu parab tungpa Tetabe jang lani rangbar chur Sumba tupcha chiang medini Dorji chang chu pe ming jak Ine ma che yang sun shang nam dappa Di la che bar tung se yomenti Tak pe ine ching su dak churwa Rewe semni domana chewa pangdang tope ngo chineo Kalde kangi tope ngo yulana tenpe chakchi nampe che jikcho nipa toktu mepa do patral parchin pane Jitarida trupe dunpai. Heart's desire from the beginning, present, unborn, undying. It's always been right here and right now. In each moment, pervading each moment, the essence and the reality of each living being However, due to busyness of trying to perfect samsara, get it all lined up just the way we want it, to get all our ducks in a row, to do the things we are taught by our culture it is our duty to do. In the Western culture, make money. In the Asian culture, have babies, raise your family. Western culture, accumulate toys. They're both futile. You won't get this by chasing it. This your heart's desire? From the beginning, present, unborn, undying, what is the value of renunciation and attainment? Renunciation, shoving away, as it is understood in some lineages. Attainment, grasping towards, as it is understood in some lineages. As if there really were something to attain. What is the point of teaching the 4 symbols? 4 wongs, 4 mudras. Confused and caught up in the desire of getting it and not getting it? Are you stuck there? You know, in a little bit, I'm going to open this up to questions. And you know what you're all going to ask me? Am I doing it right? And did I get it? No. Let go. Like a wild animal tormented by the confusion of mirages. Dila Dorje Chang, Shetok Patam, Ditaritang Gompai, Nchachodak, Chunang, Chudinito, Mepartar, Done Dapa, Takpe Ngawa, Dila Takchak, Nesutso Dume, Ijin Noru Pagsam Jingjiantu, Monam Pangir Iwe Yong Hong Pai Diang Jechan Tani Kungjop Di Ndampe Dundu Kakang Yunaing Ndoa Ndoche Chiwa Chaki Chimbo Minga Pari Trosa Raha Jiweng Me Padzok Suchakargi Kanbo Pe Ronagi Terang Chudu Zepo Chekar Kitu Doha Koshanampe Kedu Doha Doche Chewa Pal. The tantric systems merely tie it up in symbols. If you have too much conscious resistance, too much hope and fear to work with direct Mahamudra, then you work with the symbols in the Tantra because they sneak right past your conscious mind, coming up and bubbling up in your unconscious. And they teach your unconscious to stop poking at stuff. Through tiring your poker until the Mahamudra can arise naturally. Tantra's effortful. And yes, it's all tied up in symbols. But look, how does a mirage arise in a dry plain? In the vision of water. The water itself is not there, not existent there. The mind recognizes itself free of obstruction, pure from the very beginning. in a way that is both lasting and transitory. One of the nicest, Lama Yeshe used to gift me with questions rather than answers. He didn't so much answer questions as ask them. So once he gifted me with a lovely question. He said, Lena, what do you think? Do you think the second moment of enlightenment will be the same as the first moment of enlightenment, or will it be different? What do you think? Yes. The moving moves. The stillness never goes anywhere. When you become so absolutely certain of the dancing stillness that it is always present, whether you are thinking about it or not, just as for you gravity is always present without a single thought. Look, none of you have worried about, in this entire hour, not a single one of you have been worried about drifting off and bumping your head on the ceiling. Have you? Gravity, you have been aware of it, even though you have not put a single thought in. Let dancing stillness come to that same familiarity. You know, once we're on a space station, this particular analogy won't work anymore. Don't grab the analogies and think they're real. They are relative. Like a wish-fulfilling jewel, all hopes and aspirations completely fulfilled. All the world's conventions are empty and void. There is not even any ultimate truth. There's no there to that there where of go find your mind. Do it anyway. These oral transmissions of Mahamudra, called Doha Treasure, is composed by Saraha in the solitary mountains. Here it is finished. The scholar Birotsana of India himself translated this from Sanskrit, where it is called Doha Kashanama, to Tibetan, calling it the Doha Treasures. And this translation is more or less my own, with helps of many other translators. I take full responsibility for the errors and appreciate the help I have had by others. We will not begin Birwapa this week. We will begin Birwapa next time. Are there questions?
Yes.
Let's have some.
Okay. Have you ever actually seen someone overcome gravity?
No, I have seen someone, well, yes. Well, they were walking on a lake, on water. Is that overcoming gravity? One time, Mayum, that's Kuna Rinpoche's mother, got so drunk that she didn't notice that she'd fallen onto the lake, and so she started to walk across it. So I've seen that. Everybody saw that. I mean, all the little monks came out and watched her do it. And I was yelling, "Get back here!" But I didn't want to, have her notice that she was on water, because then she might have sunk. Shit happens. Next question.
Can you tell us any antidote against nihilism when you meditate on emptiness?
Bodhisattva, go do more Tong Len like I taught you. Or Chenrezig. Using Tantra, Chenrezig. Straight Mahamudra direct practice, use Tong Len. Arise Bodhisattva. You see, Sunyata is on one side, left side. This is traditional symbolic I'm talking in, not reality. Bodhisattva on the right side. This is yang, this is yin. When yin and yang come together, it is complete. Bodhisattva is the interconnectivity of all life. Interpenetrating, interconnected, and interacting in the nature of love. Sunyata is the emptiness of all form. It's the balance of the two, which is the middle way. If you feel yourself listing towards shunyata, towards nihilism, which is what it's called when you actually fall into that side, immediately increase your practice of Chenrezig and Tong Len. If you find yourself listing, and yes, I've seen students do this, listing towards Bodhisattva, where they are so caught up in the suffering of sentient beings that they're driving themselves crazy and can't relax. Do more meditation on Sunyata. You've got to cut right through the middle without going to the left or the right extreme. Next question.
A question about the Tong Len practice.
Mm-hmm.
How to conquer the fear of becoming ill because of inhaling the black smoke. What do I do if this smoke doesn't cancel my sense of self-importance?
You do it again and again. And you take the risk. You be willing to take the risk for others. If you can't do this because you feel so utterly separate from everyone else, then go to Tantra and do Chenrezig for a while until you can. But at some point, you stand there scared and you step in anyway. Like, you ever go off a dive off a diving board that was a little higher than you were comfortable with? Like, maybe it's 4 feet and you're used to the really low ones, but you're going to do this because everybody's watching. Courage. You don't actually not feel the fear. You feel scared shitless. And you do it anyway. That's courage. And that's why Bodhisattva is sometimes called the hero's path. It requires the courage to step forth anyway. If you are having trouble creating that courage, then let's sneak around past the problem using Tantra, and the practice would be that of Chenrezig or of Purba. Purba is just a wrathful aspect of the same energy as Chenrezig. They're both Bodhisattva. Chenrezig is a peaceful aspect of Purba. You can do either one. Chenrezig is gentle. Purba is adamantine and intense. Depends on if you like roller coasters or merry-go-rounds. Next question.
How do I not grasp and be attached to the positive godlike emotions like love and bliss from the Dzogchen Mahamudra point of view?
You understand that they're moving? We're going to talk in Mahamudra here. You understand that they're moving and you can't keep them. Being attached to them is futile. You might as well be attached to your youthful good looks. You can't keep it. Right, be attached to perky tits. That'll work. They really gonna last, huh? Nuh-uh. The only ones that last are the fake ones. Next question.
Okay. One of our Spanish viewers asks, in relaxing and letting go, is it necessary to let go of the movement, or is it necessary to let go of tawa so that there is no clinging to the vision?
Yes, both. Next.
Oops, I had it in front of me here. I have a problem with lying. Every lie builds on the next and snowballs into habitual lying. How do I exit the karmic momentum?
But it's all a lie. Nobody doesn't lie. I wouldn't if I were you. I'd tantric that. I wouldn't try to exit that karmic momentum. I'd actually try to work with it. And try to perceive all my perceptions as lying to myself. All my thoughts as lying to myself. I just take that right on through the loop. That's Tantra transformation, the peacock feather. So what you do, being aware that you lie a lot, start with really noticing that awareness. Don't try to stop lying. Simply notice that every thought you think is a lie. Every word you say is a lie, even if you say, I'm out of coffee. Well, close to it. I just spilled the last dregs on the floor. I'm sorry, can I have a paper towel? Because I'm a dork. I thought I was out of coffee. You see, I was lying when I said I was out of coffee. Wasn't really. That's how come I made a mess. Need to make better sense and realize that it's all a lie, every last bit of it. And you're lying, and I'm lying, and every word I've ever said to you was a lie, because the words don't go there. Why don't you start there? Inside. Never mind mucking about with the outside and what you say to other people. Know that every word you say to yourself is a lie. Okay? Next question.
Why do we have a problem with seeing everything as a dream, since supposedly it is a dream or like a dream?
Well, I don't have a problem with that. Why do you have a problem with it? I don't think we have a problem with that. I think your question meant something that I didn't quite catch. Amplify, please. Next question.
A couple of Tong Len questions. One
Yes.
is for Tong Len, you breathe in black smoke and breathe out. What do you breathe out?
When you're breathing out, the whole universe has become clear, transparent light, so that's what you breathe out. The clear light that is nature of mind, that is the nature of the Dharmakaya, that is the vitality of the universe, that cures all illnesses. That's what you breathe out. More Tong Len questions?
Yes. Should we ask the animals permission before doing Tong Len with them?
It depends on the circumstances. It is not so necessary with animals. I would advise against doing Tong Len with individual single human beings without their permission. However, if you want to do all the people on the bus that went by, that are on their way to their shit jobs at 8 in the morning, they're suffering of having to go to work, I'll take that in. That you can do working with people. But I wouldn't do to one person who's homeless, who's sitting on a bench over there, without their specific permission, because it might feel invasive. And I wouldn't do it a lot on my pet cat, because they get annoyed. So if I wanted to do it on my pet cat, well, maybe once or twice, but cats are funny. And I wouldn't do it a lot on my pet dog without their permission. And without some extenuating circumstances, because dogs love the attention and can kind of get hooked on that. So you have to keep doing it with them. But most wild animals are so busy and caught up in their own life that they're not even going to notice. Next question.
Is there a technique to relax the eyeballs, like an eye exercise? I find it difficult to relax them.
Try making a warm compress, not on a super hot day, and gently lying it on the eyes for a little while and seeing if that helps. That's all I can think of. Next, you might try a cool compress if you're in one of the places having a heat pattern right now. Next question.
A Spanish viewer asked, when I followed what your words said, I perceived I had no emotions or thoughts. My sight was blurry and I felt heat, but I had no images or thoughts. Did I do it wrong?
No, you did it right. You just didn't finish it. So keep doing it on your own. Allow the different sensations that arise to arise. Whether you are in a thought-free state, that won't last. Thoughts will come back. Feelings or lack of feelings, let whatever happens happen. Just relax into it. And let's have just a couple more questions. I'm starting to tire.
Well, yeah, we're coming up on that. Hang on, I had it just in front of me. About having all these mighty feelings during meditation or practice, you once said there could be a vision, but not always trustworthy. How to know which?
Why do you want to know which? You're having experiences. Let them rip. If there's something to learn from them, if there's a way of interpreting your experience that adds to your ability to go further, don't exactly believe in it, but take it as a working hypothesis. But stop trying to figure out if it's right or not. None of it's right. Everything's a lie. It's a thought. Never trust a thought. Not even this one. Next.
I am in the process of dealing with grief on the death of a parent. How should I adjust my practice while this is occurring? Anything that I should avoid or that might be helpful to do?
At this time, it would be helpful to circumambulate and make offerings for your parent. offerings of light. Also to work with manis. If you are trained in and skillful at working with emotions, you can utilize that method with grief. But grief is the hardest, so it's not really for most people the place to start. At this time, the creating of Gaia and offering it to the ones who have died, your parents and all other beings who have died, is the most useful thing you can do, both for the sake of the parent that died and for your sake in working with the grief. So go find temples, Buddhist temples and stupas, and go around them. Go find Bon temples and stupas and go around them the other way. It's not about which way. Go according to custom. Go offer incense and especially light to beyond the beyond wherever you can. If the dead person was a member of a particular church, it is extremely helpful to go there and offer candles and light and incense if appropriate. If they were not, then offer light in places they cared about. For example, did they often like to walk in a certain park? Take some little electric votive candles in the sunset, turn them on and leave them in the park, set up, in the forks of trees and in places, and then come back and collect them after about a week when they will have burned out, because you don't want to be littering. All of these things can be done for those who have passed, not just your parents. Your dog, if your dog passes, their favorite park, along their favorite walk, offer the candles, offer light. Do come back in a week and collect the debris, because you don't want to be littering. And I recommend using the electric votives because they won't start a fire and you may be in a place where there's fire danger. I mean, common sense goes with the practice, okay? The only time you use live votives is if you float them in a lake, if you're not going to be with them all the time, at least in California. Next question.
Isn't Purba a wrathful form of Vajrasattva?
That is also a way of seeing it, but yeah, you could see it that way. Basically, all the yidams are the same thing. Symbols personifying natural mind. You see, in its ineffable, open, not thingness, you can't really form a relationship with it. You need something a little more human. So teachers incarnate as humans with human problems so that you can relate to them and they can pass on the lineage. Archetypes exist a little bit more etherically than human teachers, but they're all the same thing. Fingers pointing. Nothing more, nothing less. One more.
Okay. How does one relate to a yidam during a sadhana? In some sadhanas, you become the yidam, and others, you ask it to come to you. What is the orientation we should have? Both at the same time?
The one that's in the sadhana you're doing. There's Kriya Tantra, where the yidam is maintained outside of you, and you have a relationship with it, like a friendship. There is Yoga and Anuttara Tantra, where you become the yidam. And there's levels in between, so often it's outside of you in the first half of the sadhana, and then later on it comes inside. after the Dhyani Buddhas give the Wong. So follow the sadhana that you're using. Anything else that I really need to answer this week?
No, I think we got all of the urgent ones.
Okay, guys. Let's see. Dream yoga, catch me on the other side. I'm not going to do that on this side this week because I got to get out of town and I got a doctor's appointment first on Monday. I will do Nundro group on Wednesday, and then that's the last one until mid-August, where I may do a couple of things when I'm back in the Bay Area very briefly before I'm off for Canada. So August's a travel month, but I'm around in September and I'll see most of you then. Those of you who have been listening to this in a language other than English, please support your translator. There's a page on my website you can make offerings to them. If you cannot make offerings to them, at least find them and thank them. If any of you are interested, if you're at the time of your life where you have more money than time, that's the time where you hire someone to help you clean the house or do the garden, because you're at the top of your career and your parents are getting old and need attention and you're raising kids and you've got no time, but you got a little money. If you're at that time in your life and you're finding it difficult to practice, consider merging your practice with one of the yogis. The results come to both together. The yogi has the time. They live in a cave, they don't have things, they're not chasing a career other than being a yogi. They're up there doing practice 24/7 pretty much. Well, they sleep, they eat, they go buy vegetables, they have tea with a friend, it's life. But pretty much most of the time they're up there doing practice. Many of them have incredible realizations. Some of them live in caves, some of them live in shacks about town, on the edge of town. Some of them live higher up the mountains in Kannur, all sorts of places. So if you want to merge your practice with one of these, for the cost of a single extra large pizza, not even with beer, per month, about 25 euros, dollars, whatevers, and more or less that much, you can keep a yogi in rice and beans. One less pizza in a month. You can't even go out to dinner for 25 anymore with inflation. So if you would like to merge to sponsor a yogi like this, just drop me an email saying that you would like to do that. Please keep that email in a separate email from the email asking me Dharma questions, because that email I forward on to the students that help me organize this, and we pick someone who is in need of a sponsor at this time and who seems to suit you. So if you want an old person because your mother died, an old woman, or if you want a young kid or a man, someone who's ordained as a monk or a nun, someone who's a Nagpa, you can ask for that, because there's such a variety of people up in the caves and out in the shacks practicing. Anyway, drop me an email if that's what you want. My email is up there. And I think we're done for today. Did I forget any announcements?
I don't think so. We're just down to merit, unless you
Yes.
wanted to do more info on Dorji Purba.
No, not this time.
Okay.
Ngewani nyurduda che che beings be free. We are complete.
Okay, you are